Hello, everybody. My name is Scott
Hello.
Fuller. Thank you guys for being here. We'll do some quick intros here. My name is Scott Fuller, founder at leavingthebayarea.com and leavingsocal.com. If you are new to our service, it's very simple. We help people who are looking to relocate out of the Bay Area or out of California to a different location, like perhaps some of the locations that we're going to be talking about today. So, couple housekeeping items before we get into introductions here. We are going to be recording this session. So be a good friend if you know people who might benefit from the information that we're going to cover, which is going to be awesome. Send a request. We'll send you a link to a copy of the recorded video. You can send it over to your friends, family members, anybody that you know, or as well be able to take a look at it at a later time yourself. We do have a Q&A box here. We also have a chat box. Wonderful ways to ask questions to kind of keep this conversation going forward. Any questions that you have, we're here to make sure that we answer your questions on Dallas, Knoxville, and the Raleigh-Cary area. So again, any questions that you have, go ahead and put them into the chat box or the Q&A box. We will be happy to answer them. All right, I'm super excited. We've got some great partners of mine representing some incredible cities and areas that a lot of people are relocating to. So I want to do some quick introductions. Rebecca and Terry Carter out in Knoxville, Tennessee. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Matt Tennell covering the wonderful city of Dallas.
Dallas, Texas.
Excellent. We got Tina Call, Ashley Bomarito covering Raleigh, Cary, North Carolina. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us, Scott. We're excited to be here.
Wonderful. Okay, so with that said, let's get rocking and rolling. I'm going to start with Matt in Dallas. Texas has had the largest influx of California residents than any other state. In fact, in 2019, 82,000 people made the move to the Lone Star State from the Golden State. I guess it's not very golden anymore. People are heading down to the Lone Star State. And I think for 2020, the migration numbers are looking about the same, potentially even more than that. So Matt, let's start with you.
Sure.
Tell us about some of the more popular cities and communities that you're seeing people moving into.
Sure. So Dallas kind of as a whole is tending to grow north, right? So we're seeing a big surge in like the Frisco area, which is about a 30-minute drive north of downtown. McKinney, Prosper is kind of the new upcoming area, right? You're getting a lot of new shops. The school districts are of the better ones in the DFW area. Toyota came to Plano a few years ago. We have a big PGA headquarters building their big golf course here in Frisco. And that area in particular is really just kind of exploding predominantly, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like, I mean, we've had a few clients that you've helped move into some of those North Dallas areas. And obviously, DFW is a huge metro area, right? Mm-hmm. But like you said, it seems like a lot of the people are kind of going north. That's where a lot of growth is. I'm sure you guys are seeing a ton of construction there. What do you think is driving the growth in those particular areas? Is it business? Is it diversification of industry? Is it just people moving in because they love the communities?
Sure. So good question. I think predominantly, right, it's the Toyota moved here that brought, 3,000 families here to the North Dallas area. PGA, Chick-fil-A, HP, all these big companies are moving in. Tesla's talking about it. Job growth for sure. Job growth is, I think, number one. The school districts, like I said, they're all ranked, the greatschools.com, they're ranked, 8, 9, 10 out of 10, right? So, I mean, I get a lot of people asking about the schools. I got a lot of people asking about the communities. They want a family community, or they want proximity to shopping or restaurants or that kind of stuff. And so you'll find a lot of that kind of stuff in the Frisco, McKinney area also. However, if you do even go out, and I know I've worked with a few guys relocating from California who are just looking for a little bit of extra land, dollar per acre, you can do pretty well. You can do pretty well up in that area once you get, outside of the main bubble there.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Okay, so I want to take it up to Rebecca and Terry. we're going to move a little bit farther east here. So Knoxville, you guys are experiencing a huge amount of growth, and Tennessee as a whole in 2019 gained 12,000 residents from California. The number honestly seems low to me, but that's what they're looking at.
It
But
does seem
the
low.
2020 census is not out, so we don't have the 2020 numbers yet. But what we're seeing a lot in the conversations that I'm having is people typically think of Nashville, right? If they're thinking of Tennessee. And so as people start looking into Nashville and you get to some of those, southern Nashville cities and communities that are skyrocketing in price. I mean, it's amazing how much those are going up. Saying, wait a second, are there some other alternatives in the great state of Tennessee that we can look at? And as you guys are probably seeing, Knoxville has really become one of them. So tell us a little bit more about the growth that you're seeing. Are there any specific communities within Knoxville, outlying areas that you guys are seeing specific growth?
Well, first of all, Knoxville our population is just a little under 200,000, but we are the 16th most popular county in the state where people are moving. And I think you can add to that, but we're seeing a lot of people moving to the west part of Knoxville, which is Farragut, the Bearden community, Hardin Valley. But then we also have people moving south, the Maryville community, toward Sevier County, which is where the Great Smoky Mountains are. And then we have people expanding up into North Knoxville because the Nashville prices have gone up so much, you can still get a really good value in Knoxville. And then you've got all the other things like the mountains and all the outdoor recreation, Seven Lakes. So I think that's why Knoxville has become popular.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the ability for people to work remotely now gives them a lot more flexibility, so they don't have to be in Nashville necessarily. They can still work very well from the Knoxville area and do their jobs. So a lot of the companies we've helped people who have relocated based on their company, giving them the option of being able to work from home anywhere they want to go. So they've chosen us.
That's a great point, Trent. I was going to ask that. So is there, business and corporate growth in Knoxville per se, or is it people are working remotely, or more that they are, looking for kind of that outdoor quality of life or retirement lifestyle, or is it a mix?
It's a mix.
Mm-hmm.
It's all for the people that we've helped from California. The main things that they tell us why they're moving here is a no state income tax, low property taxes, low cost of living, 4 seasons. We have no extremes in temperature. Our high is around 90 degrees, and that's in August. And our lows average is around 31, that's in January. We really don't have a lot of snow. So, and then businesses.
Yeah, I mean, we've helped a lot of people who are relocating with Oak Ridge National Laboratories. We do have growth. Actually, other companies and corporations are relocating here because of taxes. We picked up Smith and Wesson, and we are getting a Tesla dealership. So things are starting to progress. We also have Amazon distribution center that's been relocated here. So there are businesses moving here, but I think that the ability to work remotely is also driving that quite a bit.
Absolutely. And I was lucky enough to go out and spend some time in the Smoky Mountains. This is probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh yeah,
It's beautiful. Gatlinburg,
Yeah.
Cedarville, all those areas. I mean, it's a blast. It's a lot of fun as well. And I guess like when you're finally get your city on the map, when you have Tesla open up a local dealership, right? So
well, really, I mean, yes, I think that's true.
Awesome. Okay, thanks you guys. So let's go a little bit farther east out with Tina and Ashley. So Raleigh, Cary, you guys I know do a ton of business out there, and you have people really probably coming in from everywhere, but also from California. So tell us some of the areas that you're seeing the most growth in within your region.
Yeah, so I brought Ashley on today as my partner because both of us actually moved here and relocated from Michigan 12 years ago and 7 years ago. So the growth has been tremendous. So in Raleigh, we're in part of the Raleigh-Durham area. It's called the Triangle because of Triangle Research Park. So we see a lot of growth in the Triangle, which encompasses Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. We have amazing universities, so a very diverse university culture here. IBM, SAS, Red Hat, Cisco, tons and tons of biotech. So people sort of call us the mini Silicon Valley. Apple
The
just
biggest
made
one
their
is
announcement.
Apple.
Yep. So
3,000 jobs. So I'd say Northwest carries where everybody wants to be right now. The investors have hit us hard. They said this is the Bay Area in 20 years ago, so we're going to put our money here. So we've had, as soon as that announcement came out, Northwest Carry just blew up 5 to 800,000 investment properties. So it's been a little tight with demand, right? Because we have now investors even in the higher price points as well. We've got Fujifilm coming to Holly Springs, which is huge. And then we've got Apple, Google. So there's so many people, Amazon still, distribution centers. So I think some of the top areas, Fuquay, Holly Springs, Sanford has room, Wilson, some of the outlying areas. So those are where we're going to really see a lot. And we've got great medical. So that's a big thing for people. We have a lot of 55 and over retirement communities. Well, I would say active adult lifestyle communities. It's literally like a resort in Mexico. Like they are phenomenal. And we've got, UNC, we've got Duke Health, Wake Med, we've got top-notch facilities here for medical.
So is there an average profile of people that you're seeing moving into the area? Is it really just a mix between retirees and people coming in for a work opportunity?
Yeah, a lot of work opportunities. I mean, huge work opportunities, but we're seeing a ton from the Northeast, a ton from California. Again, they come from California. Their little 600 square foot house in LA is 600,000. And for 600,000 here, they're 3,500 square feet. I mean, we're selling a lot of sight unseen. They're like, just pick something. We'll love it. So they're actually a great clientele because they're not very picky and they're just so thrilled with what they're getting here. I think our market, when you look at it, the last decade, it was very undervalued, probably like Rebecca's market. It was undervalued. And now people are seeing the value here on the East Coast, and taxes are still low. For us, the biggest thing is I could get to the beach in 2.5 hours. I could get to the mountains in 2.5 hours. So I have a very diverse topography. And that was very important to me, that I can go across the entire state in 7 hours by car. And so I think that's really, really attractive for your retirees, our young couples, and all in between.
Well, and that's really kind of what California represents, right? When you talked about being able to 2 hours to the beach, 2 hours to the mountains. I mean, that's really Northern California, Southern California. So I'm sure that's a draw for a lot of people, saying it'd be a little bit different lifestyle. It's much cheaper, but you can still have all those benefits of what you like to do for your lifestyle, right?
Exactly. And it still feels, I mean, we have about, I think, 1 million people in the entire triangle, but we have so much room to grow. There's still so much green here. When you fly in, you see a canopy of trees still, which is nice. And so that means we have plenty of room to grow.
Yeah. One of the things I would tell people to look at is it's a community called Chatham Park. It is going to be one of the most innovative planned units in the country. They're going to have 22,000 homes, 60,000 residents. It's going to be built until 2045. I think I can't even remember how many acres they have, but it's going to be all inclusive: medical, movie theater, amphitheater. Like, they really want to create like a little town, and there's so much room out that way to grow. Nature parks everywhere. They're keeping a huge chunk of it to be nature. So it's going to be something really big. There's some awesome aerial views. So if you can go take a look at it, they want to be the innovators in the country to build that huge plan development right. So it's pretty cool.
That sounds amazing. That's gigantic.
Yeah, huge. And they just
Wow.
are starting it now to break ground.
Yeah. Awesome. So that kind of segues in a little bit more into, what the affordability is. And Tina, as you mentioned, you have people coming from California. And granted, there's going to be a lot of people that say, hey, I'm selling my 1,200 square foot home for $1.5 million, and so I shouldn't say money's not an issue, but they have a little more capital to work with when they're purchasing. But for other people maybe who are renting and are very concerned about price and price per square foot, or maybe people coming from other areas, is there still affordability, let's say in the $500,000 price point? And what does that look like?
Yeah.
So I pulled up some numbers in Cary, because I would say Cary is a good judge of, you know, where people really want to be now coming from California. You can get a 4-bed, 4-bath, 4,200 square foot home for 900,000. So I have the 9 and the 5.
Yep.
And in Fuquay, which is still growing, it's growing very rapidly. People that bought last year have huge appreciation right now. You can get a 4-bed, 5-bath, 4,900 square feet. So almost 5,000 square feet. That average at 900,000, they're older because we don't have as much large scale in that area. Cary's got an average of 2005, I would say, as far as like the time frame when those were built. And then in Cary, 500,000, this is where it flip flops, gets you a 3-bed, 3-bath, 2,400. So our prices have gone up dramatically over the last year, I would say, with people coming to our area. 1997 is the age range for that one. And then in Fuquay, you can get almost 3,000 square feet and you're getting a newer home, 2013. So I think it's still very affordable, but Cary in that 500 price point, you're getting a much smaller home than just moving out maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and that's still, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of home, right? When you get up to 2,500 square feet, a lot of people coming from California, probably, you know, maybe 1,200, maybe less, you know, depending on the areas that they're coming from. So,
and they're coming being $600 a square foot price tags, and they come here and even
minimum.
we balk at 300 to 350. Our new builds are like, oh my God, 350, but it still sounds really cheap compared to what they're used to. So it's all just in your mind, you know, what we're accustomed to. We think it's raised too fast, but it is absolutely undervalued.
We've got a lot of areas in the Bay Area that were about 500 to 600 a foot less than two years ago.
Yep.
And now it's 900 to 1,000 a foot. And we're not talking about, you know, apartments or lofts in San Francisco anymore, because that's what it used to be, 1,000 square feet in San Francisco or Los Angeles. We're seeing that now in the suburbs. It's amazing.
Amazing.
So I want to switch back over to Matt and Rebecca, but real quick, Tina and Ashley. So tell me more about, obviously in every market, we've seen a spike since COVID started, right? We've seen lack of inventory. We've seen multiple offers. Have you seen the market becoming a little bit less competitive than maybe where it was, let's say 6 months ago?
No, not here, not less competitive, I would say. I mean, you know, maybe this time of year. Yeah, maybe a little bit of buyer fatigue, where buyers are, you know, they're tired of putting in offers. But you got to remember, at a normal supply, we were at 5 to 6 months. We're at under a month supply right now. It's in the negative, you know, so yeah, so I think that's going to keep, we've got months or years, I think, of this until we see that come back to a normal, healthy supply and absorption rate. So I think they're just going to have that buyer fatigue. They're going to come in and they're going to have to compete pretty hard. But, you know, we're selling 60 homes a month. So we're definitely finding them houses. It's just they're going to have to be in the game a little bit longer.
Well, and the other thing is, you know, for folks who are on this call right now, we're going to be talking about that towards the end of the calls. You know, obviously, most markets are very competitive. How can you make your offer stand out? And we'll talk about that a little bit. Okay, Matt, I want to wrap it back over to you. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about what's going on in the Dallas market. We've talked about where the growth areas are, what's causing a lot of this growth. Now, when I talk to people, a lot of people will kind of look at Austin and they say, okay, Austin is representative of Texas. They'll say, Austin has got completely overpriced, right? And I mean, the prices there, as you know, have just skyrocketed. It's out of control, probably more so than anywhere else in the country for that city that size. But Dallas offers quite a bit more. So tell me about what people can expect at a $500,000 purchase price and a $900,000 purchase price. Can they still get an awesome home there?
Sure. So that's a good question. I get that question quite a bit. And that's, I think, what draws people from other parts of the country to the Dallas area, especially the North Dallas area, right? Because you can look in the Dallas County, right? Dallas proper, within a 20-mile diameter of the downtown area, and you can find in the 500,000 range, you know, plus or minus, you'll find 1 to 2 bedroom condo, a 2 to 3 bedroom house, probably 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. And a lot of those homes, assuming they haven't been gentrified and, knocked down and built back up, they're built in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So there's a lot of historical districts around there. So that's kind of what you're looking at. The Park Cities, which is the popular area, I guess, when people Google, expensive houses in Dallas, you're looking at Park Cities, right? Highland Park, University Park, Bluffview. These areas are the $500 to $550 plus per square foot area. So just a kind of little bit of a perspective. But once you go north, right, so closer to the Carrollton, which is 15-minute drive to Dallas, beyond to Frisco, McKinney, Prosper, you're probably in the 500 range, looking at a nice 3 to 4 bedroom house, 3-bathroom, probably in the 25 to 3,000 square foot range, right? I mean, you can get quite a bit of house for $500,000, and you can get, quarter acre lots if you wanted to, right? And these, obviously that's going to be on the larger size lots. So, good communities, good homeowners associations, community pools, that kind of stuff. So you can get a lot of house. So I think that's one of the big draws to the area, is how much you can buy for that amount.
And there's still a lot of new construction, right? Because there's still, I think, quite a bit of land available. So you're still seeing a lot of active new construction.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're going to find that mostly in the Prosper area, which is just on the northern side of Frisco. Prosper, Salina, this is where you're going to find your big developments coming around, right? Because Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, he went through 5 or 6 years ago, and he just started buying, right, land in North Frisco, Prosper, Salina, Aubrey, Melissa, these areas. And he just started developing it, right? Because Dallas North Tollway runs from downtown Dallas straight up, will be soon, to Oklahoma, right? And so kind of all along this is where they're anticipating the growth go. So you're seeing a lot of new construction. And now recently, in the last couple months, the builders have kind of released a lot of the restrictions as far as how many homes per month they can sell, how often they release the lots, that kind of stuff. So it's really opened things up.
And why is that? Is that something having to do with demand?
Sure. No, so it's more about what COVID did to the supply chain, right? Lumber prices went up, glass is harder to get. The builders, it's just, they can't logistically build houses fast enough. And so rather than having, a builder having 7, 8, 9, 10 projects going at the same time, stretching it so thin, they only release 2 lots or 3 lots per month, right? So they can kind of keep it moving, instead of overwhelming the system.
So you kind of mentioned like the $500,000 price point. If we jump up to the 900, are we talking about a huge brick mansion that you see that just awe-inspiring?
Yeah. So in like the Dallas proper area, that's when you're going to find, some of the 2,500 square foot to 3,000 square foot homes, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, kind of consistent to what you would find in the Collin County, right? The north area, and that 500 price, you'll find that here in the Dallas area for that. Once you go up to the Collin County, right, the Frisco, McKinney, that's when you're going to find the 5 and 6 bedrooms sitting on 4,000 to 5,000 square foot homes, half an acre lots, just kind of depending on the area you go, and if it's, how much progress they've made on development in that area. But you're looking at a very good size home.
Very nice home. Yeah, that's awesome. So are you seeing any differences in demand right now? As Tina said, we're seeing some people, we have seen people kind of, get buyer fatigue. They're sitting on the fence and not real sure. Have you seen any change in demand in the last, let's say 3 to 6 months?
Sure, absolutely. So I would say that over the summer, obviously it's the peak season, everybody's excited to buy a house, moving for school districts, et cetera. But I think that, yes, buyer fatigue has a little bit to do with it, but a lot of the people who needed to move here for, let's say, the school districts, right? Because the school districts are great. A lot of people move for the schools. They needed to get here. So they spiked those prices up with, California cash offers, using proceeds from sales really making it a very competitive market. But now that the summer's over, they've made it here for the school. You have certainly noticed a dive. I don't want to say dive. I would say it's chilled out. It's chilled out rather than 40, 50, 60 offers on houses. Now we're seeing 4, 5, 6, so it's less competitive, but prices are still consistent.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome, Matt. Thank you. Rebecca and Terry. So let's circle back with you guys in Knoxville. So you can still get something really nice at 500, I'm assuming. Talk to us about what that looks like and what people can expect.
Sure. I mean, it's great news in Knoxville for that price range, that 500 to 900,000 price point. You can get in the best areas for schools and the most high demand areas. And those areas include great shopping. They're close to all the amenities that people are looking for, but you can still get some acreage. You can still get some land. So the 500 to 900,000 price range, with our average price being closer to 350, will get you quite a bit. You can get new construction. You can get refurbished homes, and they're going to range somewhere between 3,200 to 3,900 square feet on average. And you can get up to 4 bedrooms to 2.5 to 3.5 bathrooms in those. And there are houses on the top end of that scale. I've had 3 California clients that moved into the exact same neighborhood where houses were just a tad over 900,000, and they're getting 6,000 to 8,000 square feet on 1 acre of land. So the value for the money here in Knoxville, it's the demand is such that it will get to where these guys are already at in Raleigh and Texas. But here we're still on the up. We're coming up, and we're coming up quickly, but it's still a great value here.
Absolutely. And Rebecca, you talked a little bit about kind of the taxes there. Obviously, there's no state income tax in the state of Tennessee. You guys have relatively low property taxes. But what do the property taxes generally look like?
Let's do a $350,000 home, that's our average for the county. It's going to be around $1,300 a year.
Okay.
So,
and then the 700,
very reasonable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The people from out of state that we've helped are just like, is that a month? They don't quite get it.
Some investments down there. I need their card.
Yeah, you guys need to talk to us
I need some
next.
investments down there.
We did need to do that. So the taxes on the higher end is going to be about the similar if you double that, like 3,600 a year, something along those lines, which they're just astonished, So it's a great thing to share with your clients.
Absolutely. Tina, Ashley, let's talk a little bit about taxes and kind of climate, because what I recommend to people who are concerned, and I don't really think any of these areas pertain so much per se, but some people will say, hey, we're going to move up to Montana or something, or an area where it's going to have an extreme season, so where you might want to say, okay, well, listen, before you commit, you might want to consider visiting in the wintertime and or the summertime just to make sure that you're okay with it. But what can people expect with the climate there and what we'll call the extreme seasons, and also what can they expect from taxes?
I'll take the climate, you take the taxes.
Okay.
Sounds like their taxes are about half a percent per 1,000, which is amazing. So climate, so I'm wearing just a little sport coat, and this is my winter coat. I came from Michigan, where the wind hurts your face and it's awful. And we moved down here to North Carolina because we wanted to see the sunshine. So up in Michigan, you get 140 days of sunshine. Here, it's about 365. At some point, the sun is coming out. It feels like anyway. So lots of sunshine. I don't wear boots. I don't own winter boots anymore. I don't have any parkas. I don't really have a winter coat, but at night, you might see the 30s and 40s. During the day, it's about 55 on average, but with the sun, that extra 10 degrees really makes a difference. So during the day, you kind of feel like you're in a 60, 65 degree zone. So you might have some layers at night, but during the day and in the morning, it feels really comfortable. So,
And we do get all the seasons. So
Yes,
it's nice. It's
we get
beautiful.
How about humidity? What do
Yeah.
you guys experience with
Very
humidity?
humid.
I like to be hot.
No,
She doesn't,
I
but
do
I
not.
mean, it's humid, right? I mean, you get used to it and it's muggy and humid. And so we're used to it now,
Yeah.
but it definitely, other than the pollen, I'll be honest, that is the few weeks of pollen when, you've got the yellow snow on your windshield.
Yeah.
That was really strange to me for the first time we saw it. But other than that, I would, and you can't own white outdoor furniture like you California people. I'm envious of being able to leave beautiful patio furniture out all year round. But other than that, it's a beautiful climate. You
Yeah.
can take the Texas.
Then you can be in the mountains in 2 hours and have
Yeah.
snow.
Yeah.
So we
That's
went
right. Yeah.
last year and yeah, it was beautiful. So taxes, I would say rule of thumb for anyone coming here, it's about 1% of, well, it is 1% of the assessed value, but if they're buying, the assessed value typically is lower than the purchase price, is what we see, because they obviously do taxes every 8 years here, change the assessed value, but I would say 350, 3,500, 600,000, 6,000. So, I mean, I've talked to people up in New York that their house is 725, they got 2,000 square feet, and they're at 28,000 for taxes. So they can't believe they can get so much more house here. I just sold a house to a couple that came from San Diego. They got 3,200 square feet, brand new construction, backing to trees for 500,000, like basically fully loaded. So
Amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
And
It's
go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I forgot to say snow is hit or miss. Like last year, I didn't get
Yeah.
to see it, which I was a little sad.
Yeah.
When you do see snow, it's there for a day or two and gone. So I want to make
And you
sure.
got to get your milk and bread. You have to run
That's
out to
right.
the store 2 days
That's
before, buy it up. You're in the house. It's a snow day for everyone.
Yeah, we get snow days in
We
North Carolina.
do. We do.
Adults
In
get
Tennessee
snow
as
days.
well.
That is so fun. So we pray for snow here now, which is
Yeah.
kind of neat.
Oh, that's funny. I'm sure the kids love it too, right?
Yes, they
And
do.
then I think people also, about the tropical storms that we get, we're pretty insulated, 2 hours in. Now we will get some where it could be coming and we're going to get a lot of rain, but really, I mean, there's certain parts that can flood a little bit. But in general, we are pretty insulated, I think, from that as well.
Yeah. It's not
So
a
you
worry.
guys don't see a lot of the rainfall or storms that come in that might hit the coast?
Days,
We
but
get rain, but when people say hurricane, my grandmother in Michigan's calling me, "Oh, honey, there's a hurricane." I'm like, "My grandma, we're fine." So we're very insulated in the middle of the state almost, so no, we'll get the winds, we'll get the rain, but I've been here 12 years. I've never had a tornado emergency or, flooding in any of the parts that we live in, Raleigh, Durham. So it's a pretty safe, knock on wood, place to live from the elements.
Awesome. Okay, Matt, let's turn it over to you. Tell us about the climate. People are like, oh, Texas, the humidity and this and that. I mean, what's the real truth of that?
Sure. So I think we actually had a relatively mild summer. I think we're over 100 just for a handful of days. It hadn't been too bad at all this year. This past year, it was warm. It was in the 100 to 110 pretty consistently for the summer months there. But the winter months are usually a little bit more mild, a little bit more tame. We'll dip into the upper 20s, for a stretch of a week, probably twice or three times a year. But other than that, it's chilly in the morning, and then it'll warm up to 60 and 70 during the day, and then cool back down at night. So you got to
moderate,
you got to leave the house with a jacket, and then you're going to be in your athletic shorts and t-shirt, in the afternoon, just to need to put it all back on in the evening. But
a lot of places where it's like you have to, you want to see what the weather's like, walk outside 10 minutes later, right? You bring a couple changes of clothes and you never know what it's going to be like.
And it's funny, and I don't know what it is about Dallas, is there are pockets, right? I don't know if it's pressure, or we have several, smaller lakes and ponds around. But it's so, for example, my wife lived in Flower Mound, which is just to the west of Lake Louisville. And she grew up, she saw probably one tornado a year. Her parents' house, the roof was totaled, had to be replaced. every other year or two, and then just 30 minutes to the southeast of that, I lived in Carrollton, and I've never seen a tornado in my life. I've never seen, not even one. And we get some hail, but I've never had to replace a roof. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and there are just pockets kind of all around that it's, the danger pockets, I guess you can say.
So Matt, let's talk about taxes because, like Tennessee, Texas doesn't have a state income tax, which a lot of people like. Texas does tend to have higher property taxes, and I think people, obviously, you factor in your entire financial situation with your overall tax liability, right?
Sure.
So tell us about what, especially in all of those newer areas where there might be different assessments or higher taxes. What can somebody expect, to pay in property taxes, whether from a dollar amount or just maybe a percentage range of the purchase price?
Sure. So 380 is a 380 corridor, east to south running road. Above 380, you'll get into the Prosper Salina. Tax rates are going to be a little bit lower, right? So you'll see some 1.9, 2% taxes, but you are going to have mud tax or PID tax, the different depending on the districts you're in, right? The municipal utilities districts, and that'll spike it up probably 0.6 to 0.9%, kind of depending on what it is and what it offers. So south of that 380 corridor, you're still probably looking at a 2 to 2.5% for the property taxes over there. But to your point, there's no state income tax. So I guess it all kind of balances out because I'm pretty jealous of the 1% and 1.3% property taxes I've heard just a moment ago. But
yeah.
Anyway, it's nice, but you do have exemptions, right? Obviously, you have the homestead exemption you file if you're living as your primary, veterans exemption, your senior exemptions, your ag exemptions, agriculture exemptions, depending on kind of the situation of your property. But and that'll take a chunk out of it, So it starts off high. The unexempt taxes start off high, but it'll chop down if you throw a couple of exemptions on there.
Still gives you a great quality of life based off the amount you're paying for the house. That's how I look at it, right? So
absolutely.
It's a huge win in the end.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about let's go through real quick, maybe your top 1, 2, 3 things that you would recommend that a buyer can do to stay competitive in this market, because like we talked about before with Tina, I think a lot of people have just said, and look, this happens every cycle, right? People say, what, I've put in 5 or 6 offers, haven't gotten accepted. I can't go all the way, continue to outbid these people. And so we're just going to kind of sit on the sidelines. Well, as we know, being real estate professionals, not everything is monetary, right? A lot, sellers will pick buyers based off of emotion or several different factors that isn't just, the financial outcome. So Rebecca, Terry, let's start with you. What are things that, you advise your buyers to do to help them stay competitive in a very competitive bidding market?
Yeah, no problem. The one thing I like to do, I always find out up front, of course, if the property has multiple offers, which in most cases they will if it's a very nice home at a really good price. And I always ask the listing agent for my buyers, what does the seller need? What would help make our offer stand out? So I'm letting the seller tell us if there's anything specific that my buyer is open to that we could write into the offer. So I start with that. If I don't get anything from that, and I know it's multiple offers, we do utilize the escalation clauses here. And for all your buyers out there, that helps us to go over the highest offer without going too high. So we can put a maximum limit on what we want to offer. And we don't just take the agent's word for that. We write it into the offer that we get to see the highest offer that they received with the confidential information blacked out.
Yep.
So that's allowed in Tennessee. I don't know if it's allowed everywhere to use the escalation clause, but we're able to use that. We also have been doing, I've won deals, of course, with cash. And I have some of my clients can't pay cash, but there is a program out there that you can utilize where you pay a 1% fee and you're able to offer cash and still get the loan as long as it closes on time. then it's called Ribbon is the company that I use for that, and that's worked successfully. And of course, the California folks who have a lot of equity, who have used cash, have certainly won on deals that are very competitive. We also try to cover appraisal gaps. The appraisers have not caught up with the market, and they're still behind as far as you're not quite sure if what you pay for the home, it's going to appraise for that. So when you're making the offer, if you cover that, you're more likely to get that offer accepted in a multiple bid situation. And then, of course, some of the things we've also added to offers is still get the inspection on the more conservative side, just to be able to get out of the contract, but put in there, we're not going to ask for any repairs from the inspection. So that gives us an advantage. Or if my client feels really good about the home, it's a newer home, you can waive the inspection completely. I don't personally like to do that, but if it helps us get the deal and that's what they would like to do, we can do that. And then, like I said, have flexibility around close dates if possible, and other components like that to make sure.
And no contingencies on
Selling a house. Yeah, that's always a
Yeah.
big one.
Yeah, absolutely. And like
I
you
know
mentioned, Terry, there's,
Yeah,
what was that?
I just said, I know these are some common components that are utilized, but they didn't used to have to be that way. It's a lot more competitive now, so we have to throw some of these other things in there.
And it seems like there's a lot more tools available now to, like
Yeah.
you said, to be able to come in as the same as cash, type of an offer, or even be able to remove the contingency of your home sale if that's going to be a contingency. Tina, Ashley, let's pass it over to you. What do you guys recommend to your clients, especially you, Ashley, because I know that you're in the trenches daily doing this, right? So
I'll say one thing before you go. We pretty much do all of that, right? I think we're
Yeah.
all going to do all of that.
Mhm.
The one thing I'll throw in, I don't know if you're going to mention it, but our mortgage lender who comes in with that guarantee. So maybe talk about a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have a guarantee that they will close, and the seller will get closing costs from our lender if they do not close on time. So I think that's huge to have our lender call and say they're pre-approved. Literally all we need is an appraisal. We probably have already had the appraisal addendum in there, but just for compliance, you need the appraisal. I think that, definitely the appraisal addendum, definitely asking for no repairs in a, competitive situation. In North Carolina, we have something called due diligence money, which is different from a lot of states. So that is a non-refundable deposit paid to the seller. That is huge. It's different. A lot of other states have contingencies where your buyer may be writing a $50,000 check directly to the seller. If they decide tomorrow they don't like the home, that money's gone. So that money also helps. If you could put 50 down, 60 down, 100 down on these properties because you're not walking away, that differentiates you from another buyer. And then I always ask everyone with the appraisal gap, do you have additional funds? Can you get a loan? Can you get a gift from your family? Is there somewhere else you can pull a 401k? Because we are having a little bit of that appraisal issue here. And they just want to know you're secured in that. So I also ask my buyers for proof of funds to give to the seller. Hey, we have 160 in the bank. We can cover it, because those buyers most times are going to come back to the seller and go, look, it came in 60 low. Will you split the difference? Well, no, you said you had funds on your paperwork.
you don't want to go back and have to renegotiate when you're getting towards the closing.
I mean,
table,
I have
because
as a
that's
buyer
just-
agent, right?
unless
I've
you
gone
have
back to
to.
the seller if I had to.
We do
but-
all the time. And we get a lot of them that still split. They'll still
Yeah.
lower it. I mean, at the end of the day, if they're going to have this trouble with us, they're going to have it with every single buyer. So you do kind of,
Every appraiser,
you work it through. But our lenders we came up with that creative guaranteed to close on time, or the lender will give the seller $5,000. So it really kind of makes them feel good if there is a lending situation there. Really just kind of trying to stand out and be different.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll buy you a pony if you accept our offer. I mean, that's,
taco truck, whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Ashley,
off-market properties are huge.
Yes.
I always am trying to dig up whatever off-market. Is it in a Facebook group? Is it in your neighborhood group? So one of the agents on our team lives in a neighborhood here, and someone had posted that they were going to sell their home. Well, she contacted them. I got their information, got there Sunday night, got it under contract. They could have made at least $60,000 more if they would have used an agent. But I was like, nope, getting my buyer on. It was actually a California buyer that had never even been in North Carolina, moved their family here from an 800 square foot apartment. But I constantly am trying to find the off-market property because that is the best advantage I can give a buyer because there's no competition. Even if we have to go over 40,000, even if we're doing 20,000 due diligence, I'm trying to dig up that offer that has no competition and make it seem so good to that seller that they don't want to take it to market.
So you brought up a good point because every state is different in the way that the contract is written and the way that it's implied and how you go through the process. And for a lot of people in California, California, you're buying a house, you're typically going to have a refundable deposit and you're going to have an inspection contingency, an appraisal contingency, and a loan contingency. Well, in most states, it doesn't work like that, so you really have to make sure that you're understanding what is at risk and how the contract reads and how you're going to come in, and obviously that's the benefit of working with you guys in your respective markets is how is it different in your state than it is in California? Because it's completely different. And I'm licensed in a few different states and it's completely different in a lot of these states. So that's a great point, Ashley. Did you guys have anything else to add? That was a lot of great information, by the way.
Yeah,
we've had people drop off. One of our agents has dropped off pies in the front and the seller's door. They've looked up
charcuterie boards.
Really all different things. If you take our offer, we'll buy pizza on move out day. Like just any little thing
to be memorable, like a cheeky thing to be memorable. Like this offer, and then we'll put in a pizza party for the seller. You want the seller to go, if they have 40 offers, what about the pizza party people? And so it's just something. And again, I think the other thing that we train on is, we want to get in touch with the agent if they'll answer their phone. And, a lot of these agents have the power now, right? The seller agent. And so we really want to befriend them. But as long we do the escalation clauses here, we're not allowed to see the prices, but we really want to drive home the point that, hey, this is a moving target. Like we're guessing, we're trying to, win this deal, but we promise you, we will go, even if you say verbally, we will go X amount over, just to make sure that seller or that agent is comfortable coming back. Like, do not just say no to us. We try to be memorable and fun to work with. So they, a lot of them like to work with our group and we're really nice to all the agents. So they're like, oh, we want to work with call group because they know the deal's going to get done on the back end. We've got a lot of admin. So that's our tactic is like, if your agent is well liked in the area, that's going to help us win those deals.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Matt, what would you like to throw in there? I know we've covered a lot and you might have said, wait a second, I was going to say some of those things, but is there anything else that maybe wasn't mentioned that you want to throw into the mix on that?
Sure. Just to, I guess, emphasize some of the other points was making sure that the seller is comfortable and confident that your buyer is going to love the house, is going to appreciate the house, is going to thrive, in that house. And how to do that is just figure out, what the seller needs, right? Have that dialogue with the listing agent. And really kind of familiarize yourself with that so that you can structure your offer in a way that is more attractive to the seller, but so the seller is confident that your buyer is the buyer they should choose, right? And another good way to do that is the lender, right? Having a good lending team, mortgage lender, maybe have a lender call the listing agent and say, hey, look, I have, this agent, he submitted an offer on this house with the buyers, they're solid, they're great, people, they're easy to work with. We could probably even close this thing a little early, depending on the terms, but there's a good chance we can, make this a very smooth transaction. And the smoother it is and the easier it is for the seller, obviously that reflects on your offer as well.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to keep in mind that, some sellers are making decisions based off of emotion and not so much the financial outcome. And some are completely the opposite. In fact, I was having a conversation with a gal this morning who is in Berkeley outside of San Francisco. And it's more important for her to have somebody who's going to keep the legacy of the home going forward than it is the best price. And so, any information that, as a buyer that the agent can get from you of what the seller is looking for, you can find out, is this more of a financial strategy or is this more of an emotional strategy?
Right.
And, I think more and more people are now sending videos, so we've always had the letter, right? The picture and the dog Fido and everything else, love your house. Some people are doing videos now. Some people don't like that, right? They say, I don't want that stuff as a seller, but you really have to find out, what those buttons are to best relate, to the seller.
Sure.
So Matt, thanks for that info. Did you have anything else to add, Matt?
Well, no, I guess to your point with the letter, I listed a house earlier this year, and my sellers, we got 2 offers. They're sort of comparable. So we went back out to the buyer's agent and say, look, you guys are the top 3 or 4 offers, submit your highest and best and we'll go. One of them changed their offer and raised it $5,000. The other one didn't change it at all, but wrote a letter, right? And so my sellers ended up picking the offer with the letter, even though it was $5,000 less than the other one. But that just emotional aspect of it, it really pulled. So
Absolutely.
Well,
hopefully that's some good information, to help people realize that, hey, yeah, prices are up, demand's up, but you know what? It's cyclical, it happens all the time. You can get into a property, you just have to follow the course, trust it, and know that it's going to happen, but you've got to be involved and take action. That's really the bottom line of the whole thing. So I think we've covered everything. Any final words that you guys want to throw out there before we wrap up?
No, I would say visit all 3 and see who buys you the nicest thing when you arrive, and then pick that state. No, I'm just kidding.
Who picks you up in a limo and offers you
a limo? Yeah, don't we do that? We pick up in limos. We buy them diamonds. It's really
cryptocurrency, like whatever it takes.
That's
right?
easy.
Yeah. So
Thank you for the opportunity, Scott.
Thanks, sir.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Give me just a second here. I've got a hand up. Robert, if you'd like to if you have a question, go ahead and type it in for us, please. And yeah, once again, we'll have this out on the internet. Make sure everybody can see the replay if they're interested in taking a watch at it. But again, I appreciate you guys taking your time. This is really helpful for people to kind of understand markets. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Robert, here's what I'll do. Since it looks like I don't see anything from you yet, I'll reach out to you and make sure that I get your question answered by whoever it was directed towards. So with that said, thanks a lot, you guys. Enjoy your afternoon, and we'll chat with you soon.
See you later.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.